Back in the day, in order to learn how to smelt enchanted elementium, an item needed to craft a legendary, you needed a priest to mind control a mini-boss in Blackwing Lair to teach it to you. Nowadays, you can just kill the mini-boss and he'll drop a recipe to learn it. It's totally understandable on why they would change it, but needing a priest to mind control something to teach you a skill just seems like such a neat idea. In practice, it was probably a huge pain in the ass though. Rogues used to have to craft their own poisons by visiting labs spread across the world, kind of like going to more advanced places to create more advanced poisons. Again, neat as an idea, but in practice was probably just another pain in the ass. Rogues also had to level their skill in lockpicking by actually lockpicking things, and had to go out into the world and open and reopen footlockers spread across different zones and hidden places. Rogues were the only class with 2 extra professions that they needed to level up. Now that I think about it, I don't think any other class really has their own class professions, besides the Death Knights. Hunter pets used to be a lot more high maintenance. They had happiness bars and loyalty points. You had to make sure to feed your pet appropriate food for their diet to keep their happiness high. If their happiness dropped too low, your pet could actually run away. And this could happen mid-fight as well. In order to summon a Doomguard, warlocks had to perform the Ritual of Doom, which required 4 other people to help you out. Once the ritual was complete, one of the 4 helpers would die instantly, and you had to capture the Doomguard since it wasn't a friendly guardian right off the bat. The Death Knights Battle Rez used to bring people back to life as ghouls, with their own special ghoul action bars instead of their normal class abilities. The action bar was very similar to what an unholy Death Knight's pet did at the time, and wasn't half bad. You wouldn't do as much damage as if you had not died in a raid fight, but some damage as a ghoul was better than no damage. This was also back when there was no battle res limits in raid fights. If you had a battle res available, you could use it. Weapons required you to see a weapon trainer to learn how to use them. Then you had to level up the skill in the weapons by attacking random mobs for hours on end with the lowest level weapon you could find, since having 0 skills in the weapon meant you were going to miss a lot if you tried using it. Speaking of trainers, you used to actually have to go to your class trainer to learn new spells and skill ranks to make your ability stronger. Now all that happens automatically while you level up, and spell ranks aren't even a thing anymore. There's not even really a reason to see your trainer anymore with the changes to how specializations work. Class trainers are slowly losing all significance. All the way until Cataclysm, nature, fire, frost, and other resistance gear was still used in boss fights. In vanilla, it was really important to sacrifice a few pieces of gear to throw on some of your resistance gear, like nature resistance for Princess Huhuran, or frost resistance for Sapphiron, and some mobs were straight up immune to certain types of damage, like fire elementals were immune to fire, machines were immune to poisons, etc. They really toned it down every expansion though, with Wrath of the Lich King only really requiring tanks to use resistances and only for certain fights, like frost resistance gear for Sindragosa. And in Cataclysm it became even more of a niche, with really only top raid guilds farming the trinket from Tol Barad to reduce the nature damage of Nefarian's Crackle ability. Resistances and lore-specific magic counters are all but gone now. Mana and health used to regenerate outside of combat at a snail's pace when compared to today at lower levels. Having food and drinks on you at all time was almost necessary since it could take an unreasonable amount of time to get all your health and mana back after killing a few mobs. The idea behind slow mana regen could be from D&D's spellcasting mechanic, in which you could only cast a handful of spells a day before you had to take a long rest to get your spell slots back. WoW does borrow heavily from fantasy tropes, especially Dungeons & Dragons. Each class had unique quests to unlock certain things, like Warlock and Paladin mounts, hunters being able to tame pets, stances for warriors, totems for shamans, etc. Now you just learn them as you level up baseline. But the artifact quests in Legion are very similar to how class quests used to work, so they're making somewhat of a return, in that you need to use your specific class abilities in order to complete some of the objectives, but not in the way that they reward class-specific abilities, just a class-specific weapon. Each class used to have an extra equipment slot. Druids, Shamans, Paladins, and Death Knights had a special item specific to their class. Casters had wands, and Hunters, Rogues, and Warriors had ranged weapons. In order to create a basic campfire, you needed the items Simple Wood and Flint. Lots of class spells required items to use as well, like mages needed a light feather to cast Slowfall, and shamans needed fish oil to use water walking. In order to learn the max rank of certain spells, that is, the most powerful form of some of your baseline abilities, you needed a codex. Some classes could only learn certain spells from these codexes, like how hunters could only learn Trank Shot from a codex, or mages different types of polymorphs. These codexes could be sold, so you could just pick them up on the auction house rather than having to actually go out to dungeons and raids to get them yourself. It used to be you needed a fishing pole equipped to fish, a knife in your bags to skin, and a mining pick to mine. Now, not so much. Hunter pets used to have special abilities based on which mob you tamed. For example, Broken Tooth had a 1.0 attack speed, the fastest of all pets and faster than most rogues could attack. Opposite that, you had bears that had a 2.5 attack speed. Frost Wolves in Alteric Valley ran at 255% speed and could catch up to players on epic ground mounts. And Lupus the Wolf attacked with shadow damage instead of physical damage. In PvE, this usually lowered his DPS, but in PvP it meant his attacks went right through armor. And many others, including certain pets having higher magical resistances than others, and pets with mana bars hitting for less than standard pets since they had caster stats. Some professions had sub-specializations. Blacksmith could specialize in weaponsmith or armorsmith. Alchemists could be transmute potion or flask masters, which has the baseline ability to proc extra items when you create items normally of the type you specialize in. And engineers could focus on goblin or gnome recipes. Most of these specializations are still in the game, but Blizzard hasn't given them any kind of significant support since the Burning Crusade, other than a few token gestures. Alchemy specializations just straight up don't work for Warlord or Draenor recipes anymore, but still proc extra potions, flasks, and transmute for expansions before WoD. Blacksmith and engineers could make skeleton keys and small bombs to open lockboxes or doors. They're still in the game, only Blizzard stopped supporting them in Cataclysm, so engineers and blacksmith can unlock chests and doors up to Cataclysm content. But like profession specializations, they just stopped supporting them. In order to unlock max level lockboxes, you need a rogue. While on the note of unlocking doors, key bags used to be a thing. Sometimes you get keys from quests or mobs and they'd go in their own special little bag right next to your normal bags. Blacksmith skeleton keys could also be put in the key bag, but not the engineer's blast charges. Flightpaths used to only take you to the very next flight path. Want to fly across the whole world while AFKing? Well, too bad, because you're going to have to make sure you take the next flight path to the next zone every 30 seconds. There used to be a couple of location-specific requirements for professions. Alchemists used to require alchemist labs to create certain flasks, and you used to have to be next to a lexicon of power to change out glyphs. Although, some location-specific things are still in the game, like how you can only smelt dark iron ore in the Black Forge in Blackrock Depths.